Here to discuss that, former FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam. And on the phone, we have former NYPD Commissioner Bernie Kerik. All right, guys, starting with you, Jonathan. 73 Florida Republicans have now signed a letter saying that Sheriff Israel needs to go. No Democrats are on that list, but we don't know why they didn't sign up to that list. But can the sheriff continue on his job with this much pressure against him?
Well, I think he can, and I'll tell you why, because he's a complete narcissist, and I even suspect somewhat of a psychopath. And I'm not saying that in a joking way whatsoever. I have a limited amount of psychology experience with a degree in psychology and a degree in political science. And I'm here to tell you the lack of remorse that I've seen from this individual, this sheriff, Scott Israel, the sheer politicization of this event, and the fact that he goes on television and touts himself as an amazing leader. I don't think that we have seen anything to this level of a psychosis from a leader in a long time.
It is jaw-dropping when you listen to him. And Bernie, I want to play this clip from Scott Israel defending himself over the weekend and get your reaction to it. Let's take a listen.
I gave him a gun. I gave him a badge. I gave him the training. If he didn't have the heart to go in, that's not my responsibility.
Now, Bernie, you were the commissioner of the NYPD. When you hear the chief executive officer of a huge law enforcement organization like the Broward County Sheriff's Office is, when you hear the leader of that organization talking like that, what do you think?
I think he's nuts. That's what I think, and I'm not joking. You know, it is his responsibility. Every man and woman under his command is his responsibility. He's got to make sure that they do the job they were sworn to do. These people were constitutionally bound to engage that shooter and protect life and property. And they did not do it. That's his responsibility. Some of the other things he said, you know, he made a comment the other day. His guys, you know, they responded 23 times to calls to that kid's residence, and 16 times they did what they were supposed to do. Well, what did they do the other 35%? They didn't do what they were supposed to do. You know, there's a law in Florida that allows him, the sheriff, to go in and involuntarily commit somebody that has mental illness or mental problems and take their weapons. That should have been done also. It's complete incompetence. It's negligence. He shouldn't be on the job. He should be removed. I agree with the governor. I agree with what Jonathan just said. And I urge the Attorney General of the state of Florida to make sure that this is investigated fully.
Now, on the other hand, there's one of the survivors from the school shooting, and this young man was on MSNBC, and he actually blamed Governor Scott for the deputy's failures, and even the president for the FBI's failure. Here is that piece of sound.
At the end of the day, it's their fault. These elected officials are the boss of these sheriff personnel, right. And just like the president is the boss of the FBI, right. Governor Rick Scott is essentially the boss of Scott Israel, the sheriff, and as such, he should be held accountable. He can't just blame this on the bureaucracy and expect to get reelected.
And this is what's concerning. I'm not one of these guys who's going to sit here and attack David Hogg for saying this stuff, but I will attack Joe and Mika for not correcting him. Jonathan and Bernie, you know this as well. The sheriff's office is a constitutional office. He is elected by the people of Broward County, and there, you know, Joe and Mika seem to just let that slide by. John?
You know, listen, there's so many people that will agree with what I'm about to say, but they won't say it. Because of fear of retribution from mainstream media and from social media. People are getting blacklisted and kicked off Twitter and things like this. But here's the facts, okay? I'm not going to apologize for this young man, David Hogg, or any of these other students that came out very similarly to Scott Israel. The day, this guy, David Hogg, the day of the shooting, within a couple hours, was on Fox News, already starting to tout his dislike of the Second Amendment and how things should change. I'm here to tell you, John, that what we're seeing here is an organized movement that transcends this shooting. David Hogg and the rest of those people, Scott Israel, the people who are funding and organizing these protests, that if you were going to try to do a protest like this without their support would take you 6 months to a year to get the people and all the money together. They're doing it within 5 days. What we're seeing is something that I'm here to tell you is a national security issue, because these people are going after the Second Amendment, not to stop school shootings. They're doing it to injure the Constitution.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit there, Jonathan. I'm going to give these kids some space considering what they've been through. I do find an issue with the Obama administration officials who have signed on to this movement. Ted Deutsch, who's a Democratic congressman from Florida, coordinating with these kids. I have a little bit of issue of how they're pushing them, but I do think the kids deserve a little space. But I want to let Bernie weigh in to what you just said, Jonathan.
Let me say this before Bernie weighs in. I was 13 when my father died. I was with him. There is a sense of remorse and mourning that goes along with seeing death. I don't see this from any of these people, even the kids.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point, John, and you're certainly entitled to your point. Bernie, what do you say? What's your reaction to Jonathan?
First, I agree with Jonathan. There was no remorse, none. And I watch these kids do these interviews. I think they're spoiled, ignorant kids that have no conception of what they're talking about. Scott Israel is the boss of the department. He's responsible. The governor's not his boss, nor is the president. The kid doesn't know what he's talking about. He's being force-fed information of what to say by others. He has no clue. And honestly, I can't, for the life of me, I don't know why these mainstream media outlets give these kids this platform. Why I have a basic idea, a political idea, but it shouldn't just happen. It just shouldn't happen.